Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Maria Goncalves podcast. I'm your host, Maria, and today we have a special guest. We have Michael Mayo. So, welcome, Michael.
Thank you so much for having me, Maria. I'm really excited this worked out and we get to connect about mediumship today.
Oh, fantastic. I'm super excited you're here too. And I'm just going to let our listeners know a little bit about you. So, Michael Mayo is an internationally respected medium, author, astrologer, healer, and spiritual teacher. He brings a practical, grounded, and evidential style to his spiritual work. With his passion for teaching and helping others discover their own unique spiritual connection, he has taught and worked globally. He is the founder of the Oak Bridge Institute. Did I say that correctly?
You did?
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
An online school that strives to raise the standards of mediumship and psychic studies. He is also the author of Spirit Speaks, which is this book right here that I have. If you guys don't have this book, go get it. I highly recommend this book. It is so detailed. So, we are going to talk about this book after. And in this book, it is a step by step guide to genuine spiritual communication. Throughout his nearly 20 years of working with the spirit world, he has demonstrated his ability to connect with departed loved ones in both public demonstrations and private sittings by bringing messages of love and hope from the spirit world. His mission is to show that we, like love, are eternal. So, thank you. And I'm going to let you guys know you can follow Michael on social media. He is on TikTok, meet at Medium Michael Mayo. He's on Instagram, Medium Michael Mayo. You guys can find him on YouTube, Medium Michael Mayo, and Facebook, Medium Michael Mayo. He has two websites. So there's oakbridgeinstitute.org and there's mediummichaelmayo.com. So there we go.
Now that all that's out of the way.
So, Michael, I am super curious. How did you get into mediumship? Like, were you a medium as a kid?
No, I was not a medium as a kid. I actually pride myself a little bit on that fact. I think you hear so many stories of people that they say, I saw floating dead heads in my kitchen when I was a child, and spoke to my grandparents who weren't there. I had an invisible friend. I didn't have any of that. I didn't have any kind of anything. The only thing I did have was a desire to know God. That is
Yeah.
something that I did have from a very, very young age. Something inside of me, my earliest memory is asking a family friend to teach me about God. And I don't know why that was there. Maybe I almost died when I was a baby, premature. Maybe I just always kind of had this thing with that, but I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. I always was seeking truth. I was always seeking genuine spirit connection, and that led me, many different paths of exploring spirituality. And when I was the young age of 18, I stumbled into a New Age bookstore and I met the owner. And I was like, wow, there's places that sell like this kind of thing. Like, this is so interesting to me. And I came back the next day and he said, hey, there's a demonstration of mediumship happening tonight. You should go to it. I'm like, what's that? And he said, it's where you are sitting, in an audience and the medium's going to give messages to people in the audience. And I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, I'll go check that out. And so I went that night and I remember sitting in the front row. I was wearing a pink shirt. And I remember thinking, this guy's never going to come to me. There's no way that he's ever going to like call on me. I don't have anyone in spirit. Like, why would he come to me?
Yeah.
Well, I was watching, and somewhere like maybe midway through or three quarters of the way through, he came to me and said, "Is your grandfather in the spirit world?" And I was like, "No." And then he said, "Is your great grandfather?" I was like, "Yeah, but I didn't know him." And he was like, "Well, he's definitely here to say something." And he goes on to say, "Are you aware you're very psychic?" And I said, "Yes," only because I'd had dreams that had come true and things like that, but I didn't actually know what that actually meant. And
Yeah.
he's telling me that you're a medium, you need to start developing, and one day you'll be doing what I'm doing. And I said, oh, okay. And my mind was kind of blown because I had no context for why that would be. I had never had experiences that
Yeah.
would lead me to think that. So I went to my very first development circle, like maybe a couple weeks later, and it was my turn to make a link, and they said, just give whatever you're getting. And I was like, okay. I just stood up and I started to become aware of a gentleman. I was like, there's a man here. His name is Jorge. He died in March. It was a motorcycle accident. He was your best friend. Da, 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 da. And I just like went on and on and on and on and on. And she's just like, yes, 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 yes. It was like your perfect reading, essentially. Like my very first reading was names, dates, facts, figures, relationship, message, all of it. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, I guess that guy was right. And so I was like, amazing. I'll come back the next week. Came back the next week, got nothing. Came back the next week, got nothing. Came back the next week, nothing. And that began in February. It'll be 20 years, my journey in developing my mediumship. So yeah,
Wow.
because my thought process was, well, if I did it once, like if I did it once, I can do it again. I just have to figure out how.
Yeah.
And thankfully, that has led me on this journey of discovering, how does mediumship work? Why does mediumship work? And what are the things we need to know, do, or not do that are going to help support spirit communication and have it be real, have it be genuine, have it be evidential. I was
Yeah.
around a lot of people who were sort of spiritual, but none of the things that they did were evidential. So I really was turned off by a lot of that, because how could you prove it? If it has no relation to reality, what value is there? And
Yeah.
I'm glad I had that mindset, because it led me to some of the greatest teachers we have today, living, greatest mediums that we have. One in particular, Eileen Davies, for any of you who don't know who that is, easily one of the greatest mediums that we have living right now. She also teaches at Arthur Findlay College and other places. But I was very lucky to have been taught underneath her. And I call her the breaker of chains. She like took everything I had been doing and just went, oh, bloop, and just like broke all of the ways I was controlling or trying or efforting, and
Yeah.
was able to kind of unlock that for me. And then from there, I kind of expanded on all of that. So that's kind of where my beginnings are. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah,
So, Michael, did you say Eileen Davies?
yeah, Eileen Davies.
Okay. Yes. I know her. I studied with her for a bit.
Yeah, she's amazing.
I think she's a perfect, for me, anyways, a soft place to land because
Totally.
she's so gentle with her students. And I was so scared of spirit because I'd studied with Jason in Prague. And then I thought somebody told me about Eileen. And I was like, oh, well, let's go find out about Eileen. I was like, Eileen, I'm scared of spirit. And she's like, it's okay, Maria, I got you. So she's just like, she's perfect
Yeah,
for the beginning. It was perfect. But Eileen does a lot of trance stuff. Do you do trance stuff?
me too. Yeah, I'm a trance medium as well.
Oh, wow. And
Yeah.
then, like, when you were talking, when you were sharing the story of like the first time you did mediumship, it was perfect your first time. And then after that, it didn't happen. And you hear stories of mediums that when nothing happened, like they'll quit, but you
Yeah.
never quit. Like you went
No.
back every week. Now I'm just curious, how many weeks, months did it take before they showed up?
Yeah. Well, the thing is as I learn as an adult, now as a medium adult, now I recognize that it had nothing to do with them not being there. They were there. It was my own
Yeah.
awareness that wasn't aware of them. And the reason is if I look back at that instance, if I was my own student now,
Yeah.
um, I would say, okay, the reason that it worked so well the first time is because you had no expectation. You had no attachment to the outcome. You had no desire for
Mm,
a specific outcome. So mediumship works best when we are relaxed, surrendered, and indifferent about the outcome. That's when it
yeah.
works the best. As soon as we start having any form of tension, so we're trying, we're efforting, we're doing something to try to make it happen, or we care about how well it goes, your connection is going to drop. So
Yeah.
that's what was happening. The first time I ever did it, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. They said, follow along. I followed along, but then it worked perfectly, right? As soon as I came back, now I have something to compare it to. So that starts to create tension in you, because you're like, okay, well, where's the thing? Why isn't it happening? Now I'm becoming active. I'm searching for it. I'm looking for it. And that's
Yeah.
why I couldn't experience it. So tension diminishes our connection to the spirit world. Surrender is the key to mediumship. The more that you let go, the more that you do less, the better
Yeah.
your work is going to be.
Oh, wow. So I am curious because you did mention you were 18 when you started. What
Yeah.
did your friends think?
I thought it was cool. In fact,
Oh, really?
I've never had any sort of real negative reaction from anyone that I was close to, which is obviously not the story for a lot of people. A lot of people have family members who have belief systems or religion or something like that that they're concerned about. But thankfully, no one in my family ever thought it was weird or strange. Nobody in my friend group ever thought it was weird or strange. They all thought it was really interesting. So yeah, I never really
That's
had
cool.
that, but I mean, I've had tons of students who have had sort of people pushing back against them, and that is it's a journey in and of itself for sure.
That is true. So then within your family, do you have other mediums? Or are you the only
So
one?
yeah, so my mom is a very sensitive person. She said she has experienced things when she was young, but it scared her, so she like shut it off.
Yeah.
Um, my sister, I think, would make a perfect, incredible medium. I wish she would let me develop her because she would be the best medium ever. Because she's one of those people who has always had psychic or mediumistic experiences, but like does not go there. She doesn't really like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if I could have the experiences you were having, I'd be real happy. You know what I mean? So I'm like always trying to convince her to let me to develop her, but you know, I had to lay off of that. And now, so she does work with Oakbridge, and so she's not a student, but she works behind the scenes and things like that. So I think she's
Yeah.
slowly opening up to maybe being curious about that. So I'm gonna keep pushing it.
No pressure, no
Yeah, no
family
pressure.
pressure. Just keep going.
Exactly.
So I'm curious, what inspired you to start Oakbridge?
Yeah. So what inspired me to start Oakbridge was working with a bunch of different teachers over my own development and not getting the answers and the things that I was looking for. Um, Especially here in the United States, there isn't like a infrastructure like there is in the UK. The UK, there's spiritualist church, there's the SNU. In the United
Yeah.
States, while there are some spiritualist camps that exist around, there isn't the same sort of consistency, the quality, to be honest, I don't think is that great. And so what you see is in the United States, mediumship leans more into entertainment, whereas in
Yeah.
the UK, it leans more into religion. And so here, I think the quality of teaching, in my experience, was not great. And then the other thing, and this is something that came a bit later in my journey, was seeing the kinds of hearing the horror stories that other students and people have had experiences with other teachers, and hearing about teachers treating them poorly, saying terrible things to them, telling them that they can't do this, being very, very aggressive or negative. I mean, when I tell you half of my students is just rehabilitation from other teachers, I'm not exaggerating. Like genuinely, I found that it seemed like the egos of a lot of these other mediums were the ones teaching these students, not wanting them to actually genuinely learn and grow. And there came a point where I was like, okay, well, I'm kind of tired of hearing these stories. I was blessed to have some really amazing teachers along the way. Because I think if I had those kinds of teachers, I would have not done this at all. I don't think there's any room for being unkind, cruel, overly strict, like all these sorts of things. I just don't think that is conducive for connection.
Yeah.
Mediumship requires relaxed, surrendered, free. If you're worried you're going to be wrong and you have all this tension, how the heck are you ever going to connect, right? It's just going to feel like this stressful thing that you're doing all the time. So I decided I'm going to make my own school. And I'm going to, try to bring in some like Eileen, for example. I think you mentioned Christine Morgan as well. She has worked at my school as well. But
Wow.
also my own, she was a student. She was one of my the earlier students, medium Megan Elisa. I don't know if you know her, but
Oh, I've seen her. I
yeah,
follow her. I like her stuff because she's super real.
exactly. Yeah. So she
Yeah.
was my student actually. I developed her when she came to me. She couldn't do any of these things. And thankfully, she's funny, her story too. I'm sure if you ever have her on, she'll tell her story. But she
Yeah.
came to her first development circle was in mine, and she stood up to demonstrate because she was like, I'll try, because she's brave like that. I love her for that. And she was able to make a link in her very first class. So again, it's I've really tried to cultivate students who feel safe. I wanted to create safety at Oak Ridge. I wanted to create
Yeah.
community at Oak Ridge because oftentimes working with the mediumship can feel very alone, especially if you're in a place that doesn't have a whole lot of that. And I wanted to make sure that people were getting real, accurate um, information about it because I don't know if anyone's online on like TikTok and things like that, but it's the wild, wild west out there. People just say any crap that comes to their mind, and they tell
It's
people all
true.
these terrible things about like their loved ones in spirit and all these things, and you have to protect yourself, and there's evil spirits, and there's all these things. And it's just, I just wanted to be able to create something for people to feel safe and to know that they have like a safe, reliable education on this topic that I've spent the last almost 20 years cultivating, not just here in the United States in my experiences, but also in the UK. I spent several years going back and forth to the UK, working with Eileen, working with other teachers,
Yeah.
um, and developing. So, yeah.
I think that's amazing because I'm in Canada. So I'm Toronto, Canada. We don't really have anything out here. But I will say Andy Bing came here a couple years ago
Yeah.
and stayed. So
Yeah.
we have him and I've mentored with him. So we're very lucky we have one person, but you're absolutely right. There is not a lot out there. And I love that you're doing that online. I love watching. It's Megan. Isn't her tag like brave? Because you said she's brave, but isn't she Braveheart or something? Or
Yeah.
no?
No. But she is brave.
Years.
She's got a rebel heart on Instagram.
I
Uh,
love her. I
yeah.
follow her. I love her because she's on fire and she answers people's questions and she gets rid of all of the fear, which
Yeah.
is so important for people to
Exactly.
get rid of the fear. I was going to ask you this because in your book, again, if you guys don't have this book, go get his book. You have Sitting in the Power. And I know I've heard mediums talk about, well, I don't need to sit in the power. Why do you need to sit in the power? Can you tell us the difference between sitting in the power and just meditating? And then, two, Michael Mayo, check out his website because he does have a sitting in the power meditation that you can purchase that I purchased like 5 years ago and use daily. I do. I love it. I love your voice. It's so calming. It's so soothing. And I was telling you earlier, I've purchased a lot of different sitting in the powers over the years. Yours the only one that has not been deleted. All the other ones have been deleted after a couple of times, like this doesn't feel right. But yours, I've listened to it every single day and I love it. But yeah, sitting in the power, because I know that's such a conversation all the time. And can you explain why that's important in mediumship development?
Absolutely. So, first question was, what's the difference between sitting in the power meditation? So, meditation can mean all kinds of things. So that's more the umbrella term, and then sitting in the power is a form of meditation. So, meditation can be, mindfulness, creative visualization. It can be transcendental. There's all kinds of different meditations.
Yeah.
Sitting in the power is a very specific sort of thing. So two things are trying to be accomplished when you're sitting in the power. Number one is you are um, learning how to become still, passive, and quiet. So that's part of it. So one of the components of properly sitting in the power is learning to still and quiet the self. Doesn't mean your mind has to be empty. Doesn't mean there can't be no thoughts or anything like that. But that we're learning how to notice, accept, relax, do less. Notice, accept, relax, do less. And this teaches our awareness to become non-reactive. Essentially, like when you experience something for mediumship, you might get a stimulus from the spirit. If your brain goes, what is that? I need to understand this. Like, and they're trying to look at it from all these ways where your mind comes in to try to make sense of it. You're not going to be able to move on with the communication. So sitting in the power is actually training your awareness to learn how to notice the stimulus, accept it, relax, do less, so that more can come in. So that's one of the main things with it. The other thing is you're also teaching yourself to become that still quiet place. In every spiritual tradition, you have some kind of stillness of the being, stillness of the mind. you have a still, quiet place, and that's where people experience the voice of God. This is the same concept. Now, obviously, I don't necessarily call it God, but I call it the source. When we learn how to become still, passive, and receptive, it's how we open ourselves to the divine. Earlier, I mentioned that that very openness, that stillness, that quietness is essential to being able to perceive things and not be active. Mediumship is not necessarily active, except for the part where we narrate our experience. We need to be able to be passive and receptive to experience spirit. So sitting in the power helps us to develop those sort of core things. And then probably the biggest thing that I think sitting in the power helps us to do is to understand the power, our own power, and the power of spirit. So if we talk about, whenever I explain this, I always talk about the power in two different sort of forms. You have your own personal power, which is your little energy backpack that you bring to every communication. So it's like your own piggy bank of power. That's your spiritual energy. And then you have the power of spirit. The power of spirit is the intelligence. It is the divine connection that occurs. And so what we learn to do, sitting in the power, is literally learning to externalize your energy, your power, your personal power, and then be in that still, quiet place, and then offer to the spirit, this is your time. Do what you need to do. I'm just here, and this is for you. Because I believe that it's the spirit world that actually develops our awareness, rather than us necessarily practicing a ton or doing session after session after session. I'm a strong believer that it's our guides and helpers. It's those in the spirit world that I always use this visualization forever. It's like they have their little white lab coat on and their little like pen and paper, and they're like, all right, what do we have to open up on Maria today? Okay, we're going to open her clairvoyance a little bit. We're going to open her clairaudience. We're going to adjust different things. So they're energetically adjusting us to make us more receptive, more open. And the other powerful thing that happens with this is that whenever we give spirit the time to connect with us, they leave a little bit more of their essence, their power, than what was there before. So over time, continuously connecting in with them, they're leaving more power and more power and more power. And this is how we actually end up building our power, building our connection, so that when things start to go a little dicey in our connections with the spirit, we have enough power for them to draw from, to utilize, to maintain that link, so that we can have a stronger and clearer connection to the spirit world. There's a lot more other things that it does, but I'd say those are kind of like the core things that sitting in the power is helpful for. So in my experience, the mediums I've watched who regularly sit in the power are absolutely insane. They are absolutely detailed, accurate, specific. It's rare for me to see a medium that never sits in the stillness and be really wowed by the connection that they have. Because it's not just about getting information, it's about a relationship with the unseen. It's about being able to blend and connect and allow this presence to sit with us, be with us, draw near to us. And that relationship that you cultivate with the spirit world, that's the thing that's going to create the connection, not me just using my awareness and going, okay, I'm going to grab this little piece and throw it at the wall, this little piece and throw it at the wall. It's about blending and connection and moving into communion with the spirit world.
Oh, wow. So in your book, because I was looking at it, and you have the power of the spirit versus your personal power.
Mm-hmm.
So can you talk about that? Because I find when I ask people, they want to go directly to, I want to connect to spirit. I don't really want to sit in my power. So why is sitting in your own power important too?
Yeah. So the practice in and of itself, it's especially helpful personally for the ability to become energetically sensitive. That's the first thing that I would say. So by learning how to open and externalize your energy, so going from that central part of you, that divine spark within, that core power that resides within, we learn how to externalize that energy. When we open our energy, that's what makes us sensitive. So we attune to the atmosphere, we attune to the energetic world. So it's that process and getting really good at that is what helps us to link in to begin with. You don't just sit down and start connecting into a communicator. Now, I think people can do that as it goes along, but we need to learn, how do I open so that I can be connected? Because contrary to popular belief, mediums just don't just walk around constantly connected to the spirit world. It's an on and off switch. I'm becoming connected, I'm turning it off, right? So learning how to work with your energy and to externalize your energy, your personal power, is actually what's opening you up to be connected to the spirit. So it helps you learn how to open your energy, but it also helps you become energetically sensitive. So I often get students who are like, well, I see things, but it's inconsistent, but I don't really feel anything. That's the core piece of it, is developing your clairsentience, being able to sense and feel when I open my energy, when something comes into my energy, and I can go, yep, there's that person. I can feel the pressure. I can feel the thickness. I can feel the tingling of the closeness. I know someone's there now. And that's because I've externalized and opened my energy. So it helps to develop that clairsentience and becoming energetically sensitive. So you can know, do I have 3 communicators here? Do I have 1 communicator? What's going on? You can tell by the way that the energy shifts and changes. But probably most importantly, training yourself to become energetically sensitive, aka understanding your own personal energy, it makes it clear when the power of spirit starts to come into your space. So the power of spirit isn't just a spirit communicator. The power, as is often referred to, is the intelligence of the other world, and it precedes any kind of phenomena that occurs. So whether you're doing trance, whether you're doing physical mediumship, healing, there is a power that's associated with it. And that's what you need to learn to understand. That's actually what's missing from like most mediumistic teaching, is that people are taught to, you just go get the information, go get it, make it happen, get more detail. That's not how this works to work the best. To work the best, you learn how to do less, let go, and fall into the power of the spirit. And the spirit is the one that moves through you. It passes information through you rather than coming from your attempt to go get information. Because you can go get information psychically. I could do a reading for you, Maria, and just use my psychic faculty and make it look like it is coming from spirit, but I will have no spirit with me. Why? Because within your energy, you have the memory of your loved ones. You have the memory of, people in spirit who have died. We can start talking about that, and I can just go into your energy. That would not be mediumship. That'd be me psychically picking up. It's so vital. And honestly, I would say that there are some professional mediums too, from very popular mediums, who don't realize they're actually working psychically a lot of the time, because they don't have spirit with them. They're just going and getting information. And so it's really important for students to recognize that the whole kit and caboodle for mediumship is understanding the power. If you understand the power, you will be doing mediumship. You will allow, because here's a great story. This is the kind of thing that happens when you're letting go of control rather than trying to direct or make something happen. We were talking about Megan Elisa earlier, and back in the day when she was one of my students, she booked a reading with me, and then she booked it as a psychic reading. And so she comes, I'm getting prepared, I'm ready to do the reading. She sits down, and I say, she said, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Just give me a few minutes. So I'm starting to attune, I'm starting to become sensitive. And as I'm becoming sensitive, I feel the power behaving like what it feels like when I go into trance. And I'm like kind of confused, because I'm here to do a psychic reading, and yet I can feel the entrancement happening, and I feel my guide starting to step forward. And I'm like, I don't understand what the heck's going on here. So I just say to her, I'm like, Megan, I don't know what's going on, but like, for some reason, I don't feel like I'm going into psychic. I actually feel like I'm going into trance, and my guide's going to come forward. And she was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. On the way over here, when I was driving, I said to your guide, hey, can you come forward? Because I want to ask you a few questions in this session. And I had no idea. The only reason that I knew that was because the power moved and inspired me in a way. They had the intelligence. So the intelligence is in the power. It's not about what I think is going to happen. If I was just doing like not using the power to be like, okay, this is a psychic reading, here we go. And I just dive into the person instead of following what is the power doing? What is the intelligence of the spirit world inspiring me with?
Yeah.
Sense?
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. I am curious because I know people ask this, and I've seen this in circles where you'll hop on a circle and they'll be like, you should have meditated by yourself. So, like, is there importance in sitting in the power with a group or versus sitting by yourself? Like, which one is better? Are they both good? Because I know people ask me this question all the time.
Yeah. So I mean, both are good. Both are
Mm.
a positive thing. Sitting by yourself is great. You can sit by yourself. It doesn't require anyone else to be with you. You can do it anywhere.
Yeah.
So there's that. It's really a great thing to do. However, there is some value, I would say, if maybe advantage is what I should say. There's a little bit of an advantage of sitting with other people and developing that way. To use, the old saying where two or more gather in my name, there I am among them. I feel like that is a very true statement when it comes to mediumistic awareness. When you sit with you and another person, that's only amplifying the power. So whenever we sit in a group together, we
Yeah.
sit in a energetic soup. So we're creating a little energetic soup. And when we create those conditions, they are helpful for mediumistic experience, development. So when I expand my power and you expand your power and they expand their power, and we all do it together, we're actually
Yeah.
creating this like harmonious link, this circle, this chain of power. And that's only adding and feeding to one another. So you're actually helping to build the power more. The traditional way of developing mediumship was home circles. So
Yeah.
that's where people who are familiar with each other come together in a group that meets regularly at the same time every week. And that's how mediumship really was developed, was in these regular meetings, these regular, harmonious groups. And so I have found when I sit in my home circle consistently and regularly, my mediumship is 10 times stronger than when I just sit by myself. So I don't think it's a requirement for you to
Yeah.
sit by yourself, but there's definitely advantages for sitting in a harmonious group. And I say harmonious specifically because if you have people that are trying to like do things and show off and, oh, I have all these experiences and there's all this like conflict and all this stuff, that's not going to be helpful. But if you have a group of people who are like-minded, where it's just
Yeah.
about learning to sit and be for the spirit and just let them do what they need to do, there's a profound growth that occurs in that. So just to be really clear, both are very good. And when you can sit with more people, you're adding to the goodness.
Oh, I like that. I will add, when I was studying with Eileen Davies, sitting in the power with her, I don't think I've ever met any instructor that does sitting in the power like her. Like she gets the whole group and you kind of lose time. You're like, what? How long? Wasn't it just 2 minutes we've been sitting? So
Yeah.
she's one of those powerful sitting in the power. I am curious because I know people are gonna like beginner mediums that are starting on this journey. How long would you recommend they sit in the power when they're starting?
Yeah. When you're starting, 30 minutes. That's the minimum, in my opinion. And the reason that is the minimum is because for the most people, when you are sitting in the power, like starting off, the first 10, maybe even 15, 20 minutes, your mind is going, it's just like running wild, right? So we want to make sure that we give ourselves and our brain enough time to finally go,
Yeah.
and then we're actually starting to move into that meditative state. But for most people, they give up because their mind can't quiet because they think they have to like have a quiet mind right away. So that's not true. For most people, 15 minutes, the first 15 of your sitting is going to be a busy mind, and then finally you settle down. So I would say at least 30 minutes starting off to train your awareness to do less. And you don't ever, this is really important, you don't ever fight the thoughts. You never get frustrated and go, oh, why can't my thoughts go away? The more you resist, the more they persist. So what you want to do is you want to accept them. You want to treat them like friends. And you want them to be like, okay, hey, brain, thanks for being here. I really appreciate that. I'm going to take note of what you were just giving me. And when I'm done with this, I'm going to go check that out. And then I'm going to soften and relax. And
Yeah.
then see what I feel. Notice what's happening in the feeling. If I don't feel anything, great. Soften, relax, do less again. And then we just continuously practice that. And every time the mind comes in, we go, thank you so much, mind. That's great.
Yeah.
And I think a really helpful thing is going, that thought is there. And what else am I feeling? That's a really helpful way to redirect yourself back to the core of what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because your mind's going to be there. It's going to be busy. It's going to be doing things. And over time, as you do that, you're going to start to notice little sensations, tingling, buzzing, warmth, heaviness, thickness in the atmosphere. Those are the
Yeah.
things that are valuable. Those are the things that are telling you, ooh, I'm starting to move into an energetically sensitive state. When you get those little energetic sensations, they're like little signposts that tell you this is working. Like this is working. So then you
Yeah.
go, great, it's working. That means I can relax and do even less. And so every time you notice something happening, your reaction starts to become, I notice it, accept it, relax, do less, which is going to help
Yeah.
us with our mediumship later. When we notice the stimulus from the spirit, describe it to our sitter, and then relax, do less.
Yeah.
So start off with 30 minutes, and then you can work your way up. I know Eileen has sat for years and years and years and years and years for an hour every day, sometimes longer. And that's why you experience what you experienced in her circle,
Yeah.
because you experience that time loss, that just ease of slipping in when you sit with people who are developed, when you sit with people who are have a strong power. Their power permeates the group, and that helps to move them into that altered state. So it's why it is sometimes easier when you sit with people who have been developing. It's also easier when you have people in a group where at least one of those people are used to sitting and know how to get into that space. When you have a bunch of new people sitting together, it can take a little bit of time before we actually get into that dropping in, because nobody's sort of anchoring the sort of energy into that heaviness, that altered state. So yeah, there's the I just wanted to highlight that that's why you feel that with when you were sitting with Eileen, is that she has an incredible power. I mean, sometimes even when she's talking, you feel the
Yeah.
power. You know what I mean?
I think she's amazing. She's absolutely amazing. So I am curious, Michael, how long do you sit in the power for?
Like currently, how long do I sit?
Yeah.
Yeah, so currently I probably sit in the power for anywhere from, it probably ends up averaging 30 minutes, but sometimes a little bit longer, maybe sometimes 20 minutes. It just depends on the day and how much time do I have.
Yeah.
But generally that. If I'm sitting in my home circle, I definitely sit on my own less. But it's also because I have sat consistently for many, many, many years where like I can kind of move into that. That being said, if I don't sit in my home circle and I don't sit regularly by myself, I feel the difference. It's like someone's taking the volume of my awareness and they're just turning it down, turning it down, turning it down. So after a while, it becomes harder for me to connect. Like it's almost like
Yeah.
you're not stretching anymore, or like, doing yoga. And so you start getting stiff. It sort of starts to feel like my awareness gets less flexible. So it really is a practice. You asked earlier, why is it important? That's part of the reason, is learning how to move your awareness into that passive receptive state easily.
Oh, wow. I find it if I miss a couple of days of not sitting in the power, I'm off. Like I'm cranky. I need to go back and sit in the
Yeah.
power and just be in the quiet, which is so peaceful. So my next question, in your book, you talk because you go into such, again, I highly recommend this book if you guys don't have it, but you go into such great detail about breaking down readings. And at the end, you talk about reflecting on your reading. So why is that important?
Yeah, it can be important. It's not for everybody. It is a tool, though, that you can use. So during the reading, you want to maintain a sort of indifference about how things are going. You want to have as much indifference about the outcome or all of that. Because if you start caring about those things during the reading, you're going to start feeling more tension, and that's going to like shut off your connection. And so as soon as we start going up into our thinking mind, we start to narrow our focus, we start trying, we start efforting, aka becoming active rather than passive. So you don't want to do that during the reading, but after the reading, there is value in going, okay, what was going on there? There was that moment where it felt a little bumpy. Was I trying to reach for something? Was I trying to was I getting distracted by how my sitter was responding? It's a way to have a little bit of awareness around what were kind of creating the highs and the lows in your reading. We definitely want to try not to judge our readings. We don't want to be sitting there, after every reading and analyzing them. But
Yeah.
it can be a helpful tool if there's something particularly difficult that was occurring to kind of reflect on, well, what was happening within me? Why was I reaching in that moment? Was I feeling insecure in that moment? And then looking at that, what's my attachment to this outcome? Why am I feeling that? And most of our problems within our mediumship can be brought back to these three things: desire, distraction, and expectation. So desire means a desire for an outcome, the desire to do it right, the desire to get certain information, the desire to do well. That creates tension, and that's going to be a source of challenge for a lot of people. Distraction is several things, so I won't go into all of them, but it's essentially a distraction of my sitter, distraction of my own thoughts, distraction of my own biases. That creates tension. So if I see someone from a certain ethnic group, or if I see someone presenting a certain way, I make all these assumptions about it. I'm now battling, is that my mind? Is that the spirit? Or if my sitter's sitting there, his arms crossed going like, yeah, that creates tension in me. So I'm now becoming distracted by my sitter, right? So, and then lastly, expectation is thinking that your mediumship should look, feel, or be a certain way. So whether we're comparing to professional mediums and being like, I'm not getting that, so I suck, tension, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe I had a really good reading last session, and then this session is not happening, aka my original story. I had an amazing reading first, and now I have expectation, and now it's not happening the same way. So now I have tension, right? So desire, distraction, and expectation are really the core things that go wrong within our mediumship. And so having that moment of reflection, you can go, oh, yep, there was desire. I was trying to get certain things. Or, oh, yeah, I was comparing it to my last reading. I was like, why isn't it feeling that way? Those things can help you start to have more awareness in how to approach the next reading, because our approach to our readings make a really big difference.
Oh, I like that. I love the way you broke that down and simplified it. So I hope it helps those that are listening or watching this video. So my next question for you, because you talk a lot about spirit guides. So should we be meditating with our spirit guides? Like, how should a new medium connect with their spirit guides? Like, how important is that?
Yeah, so I know for myself, I didn't really have a relationship to my spirit guide until like 7, 8 years into the process. So
Yeah.
it wasn't until quite a while later, like all these other people are like, I have my guide and he looks like this and all these sort of things. And I'm like, I have no idea. Like I know someone's there, but I don't know who this person is or know anything about him. And in my book, I talk about the story of me kind of coming to know my guide and connecting with my guide. But it, when people ask how important is it to know your guide, I think what's important is that you can feel your guide. It's not that important to know their name, what they look like, any sort of magical stories about them, whatever. It's more that you can feel when their presence and their signature starts to come into your essence and your energy. And we do that through a practice called the calling card exercise, which is also in my book. And I also have an audio on my website that you can do it through.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah, and the calling card exercise helps you. You'll do it multiple times. You'll do it over and over to strengthen that connection to your guide or your helper so that you can start to feel and sense their presence to know when it's them. So for example, one of my guides always comes forward with this like tingly feeling that goes from like my left to right. across
Yeah.
my chest. And that's how I know it's always him. Now, obviously, as a more developed medium, I can also feel his essence and feel his presence. But in the beginning, it's really helpful to have some sort of sensation that helps you to go, oh, there's my guide, my guide's present. So
Yeah.
that's how you begin the process of connection with your guide is through practicing the calling card exercise. It's one way to do it. And then letting yourself learn to sit and still and not try to make something happen. So important if you're trying to connect with your guide that you let go of any attachment to the outcome. That was how I genuinely got to connect with my guide. It wasn't a visual story. I didn't have to go down a dell in a meditative state and grab a crystal and look in the reflection and there's my guide. Like it was none of that. All of that creative visualization stuff actually is hindering. It's keeping you in your thinking mind. So you really
Yeah.
actually want to learn how to, I'm just here and I'm still and I'm passive. And whenever you're ready, you will step into my energy. And it may take a long time,
Yeah.
it take a while before that happens. But as Eileen always says, when the inner and outer conditions are right, the flower blooms. And I think that that's very true in our mediumistic awareness, is that when we have the inner openness and that readiness externally, mentally, whatever, we're able to actually experience more. So recognizing that our development is a process of unfoldment rather than an end goal. So we want to learn to fall in love with that process of the unfoldment or the journey rather than like, I need to become this thing. When our focus is too much on the outcome, we really slow things down.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's fascinating the way you say that because I'm going to be honest, I was that person that didn't want to be the medium. And Spirit's like, and you're going, and no, I'm not. So I was like the opposite of friends that would be super excited to be out there. I'd be like, are you kidding me? I just want to hide in my room and nobody know I exist. What's wrong with you? But okay, so my next question, because I will hear this about guides, can your loved ones be a guide?
Yeah, I guess it kind of depends on how you're defining it. So, what I have found in my experience is that there's generally some presence, some being who is kind of connected with you all the way from the beginning. So, from
Okay.
when you're born, there's a guide or a presence that is there to support you and guide you and help you. Some people call it a guardian angel, other people call it whatever,
Yeah.
helper on the other side. And I think that's what I would call my like spirit guide, that
Mm.
there's a spirit guide that's been there with me from the beginning. And I think if you think of your spirit, others in the spirit world as part of your spirit team, your spiritual support, I think in
Yeah.
that way, your loved ones can be your guides and helpers. So
Yeah.
meaning they're your loved ones, and you might have your main guide who's been with you your whole life, helping you on to be on track and hit the things you want to hit. And you may also have your grandmother who is there watching over you and supporting you and helping you and being there for whenever they can. But they may not have the full picture, the roster of what you're here to learn in this life. But they are there guiding you, helping you, supporting you. So I tend to put my loved ones in spirit as helpers,
Oh, I
supports
like
in the
that.
spirit world, rather than
Yeah.
viewing them as like my spirit guide.
Oh, I like that. So, out of mediumship, I love this conversation. I love talking to you. It's so much fun. What is your favorite topic to teach and why?
To
Do you
teach.
have a favorite one?
Oh man, that's so hard because I like all of the topics in for different reasons. I'll just kind of briefly go over them. So, like mental mediumship, I love to teach because it really helps people to learn how to work with their spiritual awareness. Because
Yeah.
either your dad died at 64 or he didn't, or your dad was a mechanic or he wasn't, and it's really helpful to learn how incorrect information feels when it comes to you versus how when it's coming from your mind or your imagination, how that feels. So mental mediumship is really helpful in us being able to develop discernment between what's my thinking mind versus what's not my thinking mind, and how to really create a really strong connection with the spirit world. And all the lessons that you learn developing that can then be applied to all the other ways of doing it. So that's why I love teaching mental mediumship. I love trance and the altered states because I feel like that is where you get to feel the presence and the closeness of, and the reality really of spirit in a very tangible way. When you're blending with a spirit helper, like you feel that there is no question in your mind that there is something else interacting with me, blending with me, and our awarenesses are blending for a time period. And you feel them so much. So you feel their love, you feel their connection, you feel their peace, you feel their joy, all of the beautiful energy that you get to feel with it. I love having students get to experience that as well. And then also, there's a lot of benefit that comes from learning how to let go of control entrancement, because while you're in the entranced state, because you can't really let go or have a trance experience without letting go deeper. And that's only going to improve your mental mediumship. So the old saying is always, trance can only enhance your mediumship. So I love teaching trance for that purpose. And then I do energy healing. In fact, I'm actually bringing that to Oak Bridge Institute for the first time in November. So the beginning of November, so in a couple of weeks. And I will be teaching energy healing. And I waited a long time to bring energy healing into it because I didn't want to do something that didn't have physical, tangible, repeatable results. And now it does. And so now I'm going to be teaching it to my students. And I love that because you have head pain, or you lost your taste from COVID, or like you have whatever, and you can bring it back. And like, here you go. Like your numbness in your hand went away. Your frozen shoulders started lifting. Like that's very demonstrative. And so that's so fun to me to show people, wow, it's actually really easy to do that as well. And then lastly, I love physical mediumship and working in those ways because of the real, obviously tangible experiences of hearing knocks and raps and movements of objects and things like that, which I think really you can't deny, you know, that kind of thing of the reality of spirit. So yeah, I love teaching the topic. It's been my passion for like 20 years. So yeah, it's really fun.
So question, how do you teach physical mediumship? Do you do that online?
I don't teach physical mediumship online. In fact, I have never taught it in a formal setting. It's always been in select group of folks and sitting for that. Could you, and also in person. I've done a lot of things with students in person, not online. Can you sit in a circle and develop potentially physical phenomena online? I actually think possibly yes, because I have seen groups that have sat for physical online and start to have phenomena in specific people's homes, and things happening like cat balls lighting up and like all these different things happening. So possibly, I don't want to say for certain, but I will say that because energy is not limited to time and space, you being there and me being here doesn't make any difference. We're creating the energetic soup anyway. And so, you know, but I'd have to experiment with it more to give you like a certainly, yes, you can teach that online. But most of the things that I've done with physical mediumship has generally been in person when I've taught in person.
Oh, wow. So before we go, I wanted to say thank you for being here. And then any last words of wisdom or encouragement for that beginner medium that wants to go on this journey, but is a little bit, I don't know what to do, because there's so much out there, as you just shared with all of us.
Absolutely. So, a few things. So, the very first thing is to recognize you are a medium right now. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. The only thing that's keeping you from being able to perceive the spirit world is your thinking mind, is your trying, is your efforting. When we start to quiet our thinking mind, our brain acts as a condenser of our consciousness. So when I start to quiet this thinking mind, I'm able to actually start to experience more of what I already am. I'm actually, when we talk about our personal power, we're talking about attuning our awareness to our energetic truth, our real self, our core self. When I start to take my consciousness and focus it on that, that's when I start to experience the spirit world. That's when I start to expand and start to connect. So there's actually nothing keeping you from being able to do this, and other than training your awareness to learn how to become passive, receptive, and open, and you will be able to learn this. I have taught hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of students over my years. And it's funny because this question actually came up with a mentoring student today, where they basically were like, have you ever not been able to teach someone? And in like one instance for certain, it was because she needed to kind of work on just feeling in general. Like even in her life, she couldn't feel. And that was
Yeah.
a difficult thing for her. So she needed to do some other work before she could start to develop her mental mediumship. Otherwise, literally every other person that I've ever worked with, they are able to start to develop and feel. Now, what will make the difference between being able to develop this versus not is your patience and your
Mm.
time and your investment. So if you are dedicated and you continue to work at it, you will develop this. This will happen for you. It's not even a question to me in my mind. You will be able to develop your mediumship, but you just need to give yourself enough time and try your best to not decide that you can or cannot do this within the first few weeks or within the first year even. Give yourself time. I had one student who she was developing with us for a while. She's definitely an exception, where it took her, I want to say like a year and a half before she could even make a proper link. Now that's unheard of. I can usually teach people in 4 hours how to make a link to the spirit world, but she was able to, she was just happy to be there. She was like, I'm just here, I'm just glad to sit in the power with everybody. She had a great attitude about it. And I kid you not, one day it just went and it clicked, and then she started giving excellent readings. She worked all the way into our advancing section of the school, and she was working with the public, getting 5-star readings all the times to the public, and
Wow.
can be work as a medium now. But
Yeah.
she was patient and she gave herself the time, and she didn't try to rush, and she wasn't outcome focused. She was just like, I don't know, I'm just going to keep going until I get there. So I say that story just so that people who feel like, oh, it's not right there for me, then I can't do this. That's just not true. You just have to give yourself time, patience, and persistence.
Yeah.
And that will develop you. So don't count yourself out. You are a spiritual being right now. You are connected to your loved ones in spirit and the spirit world right now. All you have to do is learn how to quiet the thinking mind so you can connect and feel into that world.
Oh, I like that. Thank you. Thank you for being with us. Again, this is his book, Spirit Speaks. Go check it out. I highly recommend this book. It's so broken down chapter by chapter. You talk about different mediums in here with different types of mediumship, which I found super fascinating. Where can they get this?
You can get it on Amazon. That's an easy
Okay.
place. If you don't want to support Amazon, you can always go to llewellyn.com. It's the publisher. You can get it there. There's probably other places online you can get it as well, but just Spirit Speaks. It's distributed everywhere. So,
Okay, fantastic. And then don't forget to check out his website if you want to get the audio sitting in the power and the calling card for
yeah,
your spirit person, correct?
you can do that at mediummichaelmayo.com. And if you're
Okay.
interested in working with us at Oak Bridge Institute, you can do that at oakbridgeinstitute.org. If you want to do mentoring, that's at the mediummichaelmayo.com.
Okay. I will have all of his links up. Email him for clarity wherever you feel you want to study. And thank you for your time, Michael.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and I'm happy to come back anytime.
Oh, absolutely. There's like, we didn't even talk about astrology and all the other amazing stuff you did. So thank you. Okay. Goodbye, everybody.